Hey everybody, today we're going to do a quick recap of the elections from yesterday, June 25th. We had a nice 5+ hour stream again, so thanks to everybody that showed up. But let's get right into it. We're going to go quickly through these results. And you can see the headline there is from the most high profile race. Latimer defeats Bowman in contentious New York primary. So let's start in New York and look closer at that race. And like with many of these races, there is still some vote that's outstanding. So the results could change by the time you watch this. But incumbent Jamal Bowman, who's considered a progressive, he was defeated by more establishment candidate George Latimer. Now that was the expected result. There's been a lot of money going into this race, a lot of division over the situation in Israel, but you can see here the end result is not really that close. Latimer is well into double digits and even approaching a 20-point margin. You can see the district here. There is part of it that dips down into the Bronx. That's where Bowman ran it up huge at 84%. But north of there in Westchester County, that's where the bulk of the population is in this district, and that's where Latimer got about 63% of the vote. So on the one hand, it's kind of a blow to squad member Jamal Bowman. Who knows what he's going to do from here? But more moderate or establishment Democrats got what they wanted. They've got Latimer, who technically still has to go on and win the general election in November. But this is a blue enough district where the Republican is not going to be much of a factor. So moving on, a few other races to take a look at in New York. In the 1st congressional district, the winner for the Democrats is John Avlon. He's a former CNN reporter. It was landslide for Avlon. He won by a 40-point margin. He's going to go on to face incumbent Nick LaLota in November. And LaLota should be favored, although it's not overwhelming. Next, in the 22nd district for the Democrats, the winner was John Mannion over Sarah Clee Hood. This one was not really that close either. Mannion won by more than 20 points. He's going to go on to face incumbent Republican Brandon Williams. Since the last election, the district was redrawn to favor the Democrats a little bit more, so this could be an uphill climb for Williams, but the race should be competitive. And in the 24th district on the Republican side, incumbent Claudia Tenney staved off a challenge from Mario Fratto. It's a similar margin as the one we just took a look at. Tenney got her margin into the low 20s. In November, this is a very red district. The Democrats not much of a factor here. So those are some of the main U.S. House races in New York, but if you want to look at the full slate, you can do it here. The vast majority of these were uncontested. Feel free to pause it if you'd like, and as always, all the links will be down below in the description. There's a few more races here at the bottom under the state legislature, including a U.S. Senate race, which seems important, but both the Democrats and Republicans were uncontested. In November, the Democrat Gillibrand is going to be heavily favored. Next, we can move on to Colorado, and this gets a little bit tricky, but we did have a special general election for the 4th congressional district for the U.S. House. This is to fill the remainder of the term of Republican Ken Buck, who stepped down earlier in the year. His term expires in January, so the winner here was Republican Greg Lopez over Tricia Calvarese. So Lopez is going to be sworn in pretty soon. However, that is separate from the primary for the next term, which begins in January. The primary for that next term is right here, and we've got Lauren Boebert as the winner, who's currently in office in the 3rd congressional district. She decided to move to the neighboring 4th district, which is redder, which should give her an even easier time to win re-election in November. Right now, she's around 43% over Jerry Sonnenberg, who was at about 14.5%. She did not win every county, but at a crowded race, over 40% is going to get the job done. Now in November, she's going to face Tricia Calvarese, who we just saw in that special election, who lost to Greg Lopez. She was able to scrape out a win over Ike McCorkle, who was the nominee in 2022. Now if we go back to the 3rd congressional district, this is the district currently held by Lauren Boebert. So she's now in the 4th district, so this is an open seat. The winner here was Jeff Hurd with about 41% of the vote. He's considered less controversial than runner-up Ron Hanks, who got about 28.5%. He's going to go on to face Adam Frisch for the Democrats, and Frisch was the nominee to face Lauren Boebert back in 2022, and he narrowly lost that race. Now let's move on to the 5th district. This is an open seat to replace retiring Republican Doug Lamborn. For Democrats, we've got a close race, but River Gasson is nearly ahead of Joe Regan by about 1 point. Now on the Republican side, we've got the winner, Jeff Crank over Dave Williams, 66-34. Williams did have the Trump endorsement, but Crank easily won this nomination. Crank is going to be favored over whichever of these two Democrats ends up being the nominee in the general election. And in the 8th district, the winner for the Republicans is Gabe Evans. He did also have that Trump endorsement. This was pretty much a landslide. Evans got in the high 70s. He's going to go on to face incumbent Democrat Yadira Caraveo. Caraveo won a narrow race last time, but she's the incumbent but this time she's going to start off with an advantage. So those are the highlights in Colorado. If you want to see the rest of the races, you can take a look at them here. Next, let's move on to Utah. We've got a U.S. Senate race to replace Republican Mitt Romney. There's still some vote outstanding, but the winner here is John Curtis with over 50% of the vote. The runner-up is Trent Staggs. Staggs had that Trump endorsement. Curtis is considered more moderate, and he's going to be heavily favored over the Democrat in November. Staggs was able to win one county here in the Southwest. The other big race is for governor. Incumbent Republican Spencer Cox faced a primary challenge from Phil Lyman. Spencer Cox is considered a little bit too moderate for some, so Phil Lyman came in and gave him a little bit of a run for his money. Right now, Cox is leading by about low double digits. So considering that's only a two-way race, that's not too bad of a performance from Lyman. But as expected in these two big statewide races, John Curtis and Spencer Cox both went on to victory. Now, a couple of U.S. House races to take a look at. We've got the 2nd District. This has incumbent Republican Celeste Malloy. She's relatively new to office. She won a special election herself not that long ago. But she's locked into a tight race here with Colby Jenkins. She's only ahead by around 4 points right now. Malloy is backed by Trump, but she did lose to Jenkins at the GOP convention. But in this actual primary where everything matters, it looks like she's holding on to a narrow lead, although the race has yet to be called. And in the 3rd District, this is an open seat to replace the vacancy of John Curtis, who we just saw running for the U.S. Senate. The winner here is Mike Kennedy. He's a state senator, and he did not get a majority of the vote. He's at about 37%. He also won at the GOP convention, and he has the endorsement of their other U.S. Senator Mike Lee. And if you want to take a look at any of the other races, you can do so here, including Attorney General. And in November, all these Republicans are going to be fairly heavily favored to win. And finally, we've got one runoff race to take a look at in South Carolina. In the U.S. House in the 3rd District, this is an open seat to replace retiring incumbent Jeff Duncan. The winner was Sherry Biggs over Mark Burns in a narrow race, 51-49. Biggs had the endorsement of Governor Henry McMaster. Burns had the endorsement of Donald Trump. And in November, they're going to be heavily favored to win. So several Trump-endorsed candidates did not put up the win last night. I'll leave that to you to decide how much that matters. But those are the highlights from yesterday's election results. There's, of course, a bunch of other things going on in the state legislature. I can't cover all those down-ballot races, but I encourage you to look them up if you're from that area. After this, of course, we have the debate coming up on Thursday. Then there's really no primaries until the end of July. In between there, we've got the Republican convention, and then primaries ramp back up in August. So that's pretty much it. You might try to draw some conclusions for the general election based on the primary numbers or the turnout. I tend to think you should not try to draw too many conclusions. November could easily look different than these primaries. But I'm going to leave it there for now, so let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of these results? How about Jamal Bowman going down in New York? What about that special election in Colorado? About any of those races in Utah or maybe the South Carolina runoff? Let me know what you think down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.